I went to America. Here's how that went. Alright, well guys, it's great to be back on the channel, and I'm going to do what I did last time for my island video. I'm just going to go by the photos of my phone and just talk about my experience. I plead ignorance on the historical side of this video because I've got a very good excuse. America is only, it's not even 250 years old. America, the Americas, is the new world. Obviously, I know a little bit, like, vaguely about the history of the state I visited of Missouri and a little bit of St. Louis, but we'll get into that later on into the video. So yeah, I just want to say first off, guys, this was my first time outside of Europe ever. So yeah, so a little backstory then, just for additional information. I got a very close friend of mine, really good friend of mine, and we've actually only really known each other properly for, I don't even think it's a year yet. Like, we've actually been mates, but we've actually got baby photos together. So I'm not going to go into all the details. Like, our families knew each other years ago through church, and yeah, so later on in life, found out that you know, we had a mutual friend, and that was it. We just started talking. We got on pretty well. He lives in the US. He has Welsh. He is half Welsh. And he came to visit Wales a couple of months ago, and I really wanted to return the favour to him, so I went and I visited him. So I just want to talk quickly about, like, the flights. Like, I've never ever gone on more than a 4-hour flight. I think that was to Turkey or something when I was like when I was young. I've gone on so many trips, like, throughout Europe and stuff, but I've never left Europe. So it was pretty easy. All you have to do is, like, sign this ESTA form and then pay $40, and then that's valid for 2 years. But as a British citizen, I can only go to America for 90 days at a time, leave, and then come back. So yeah, that's what it is. And then I can do that over a period of 2 years. So that's what it is. So yeah, I flew with Delta. So I have to say, pretty impressed with Delta, not gonna lie. And I had to get an internal flight. Now, my travel agent said to me, because it's an internal flight, you may have to get your luggage from the luggage carousel or whatever you call it, and then recheck it in. I was stressing because Atlanta, Georgia is the busiest airport in the world, if I don't stand corrected, and it was busy. And you actually have to take a train in the airport just to get your terminal. To me, that was just crazy. But anyway, I got through US Customs. Finally made it to my terminal at St. Louis, and I had it was delayed, so I had to wait a little bit longer. And after like a 10-hour flight, I was hanging. Not to mention, I went from Cardiff to Heathrow through the night on the bus from 1:30 in the morning, and I was just traveling all that time, and then got my flight at 9 o'clock. So yeah, pretty mad. Eventually, I made it to the baggage claim in the St. Louis airport, and it was funny. It was absolutely mad. Like, when my mate picked me up, I got out, and I was like, wow. I'm in America. I was like, everything looks so different. Everything's massive. Everything's spread apart. My mate picks me up. You know, me and him are super excited. We're just losing our minds. And on the way to his parents' house then, to meet his parents. And I am just looking at, like, everything. The road signs, the roads. I remember seeing this, like, water tower. Like, we have reservoirs in Wales, but no, they have, like, water towers there. And, like, the size of these water towers, I don't know, I was losing my mind. And then he showed me around his house. Sorry, I met his parents, who are absolutely lovely people. Incredible hospitality. If you're watching this, thank you so much for hosting me. I was welcomed. And, yeah, so we ended up going to church service. My mate he comes from the Orthodox tradition. So we went to a divine liturgy. And then we ended up on the Missouri River. So that was pretty cool. We thought it was the Mississippi River at first, but no, it was the Missouri River. And the rivers are not like, it's not like the Taff. You know, this river, it looks like a sea. And it's, if you think of, like, I think Lake Michigan, or like the lakes above those, above that area, those lakes, I mean, I don't know how people can call them lakes. They're literally like seas. Like, you can't, if you go from one side of the lake, you can't see the other side of the lake. It is that big. But that just showcases how big America is in general. I guess so. So yeah, we went to that church service, just like exploring about the place. And his parents, God bless them, they took me out to a Mexican restaurant, and they were really surprised. Oh, you've never tried Mexican food before? I was like, no. It's mostly like Chinese kebabs, you know, fish and chips, stuff like that. But here, so. But yeah, it was delicious. None of us were able to finish our food because, well, I mean, it was so filling and it was delicious. So very, very good. Yeah, no, there's a point I really want to mention real quick. When I first met his parents, it was an honor meeting them. It was like we got on great, and they welcomed me in. And then the discussion around guns arose, and my mate has said to me a few times. I actually tried to sort of say that I feel uncomfortable about guns, you know, from a Welsh, let's say, British perspective. Yeah, we have a different gun culture here, and I'll get onto that later in the video. As you probably could tell, you know, you've already seen me shoot guns on that short and stuff. But beforehand, I was very anxious, and I was very, like, apprehensive about shooting guns, and like even like mentioning them, it's like, well, you know, it's like just got a pure negative connotation. But it's very interesting seeing the culture is totally and utterly different. It is, yeah, I'm not like, what's the word? This isn't secret information. Most homes, I believe, or the majority of homes, or a lot of homes in America, they do have firearms. The fact that they just had them in the house, at first I thought that was absolutely nuts, and then I walked down to the basement where me and there was 2 rooms. There was a big library, it was a kitchen, I had my own room, my mate had his room, and it was like an entire house in the basement. I was like, this is massive. And anyway, so my mate has his guns on the dining table downstairs, and I'm like, wow. And then I pick it up and I start like posing with it, and I was talking about how apprehensive and how frightened of guns I was, and then his stepfather walked downstairs and saw me posing with it, and then he said that didn't take long. So it did not take long for that. I just want to say to the UK government real quick, I am not promoting guns. Please don't arrest me. Please don't. I know what happened to that fella from Yorkshire. Please do not arrest me. I'm not promoting guns. I'm not selling them. I'm not advocating for them. I'm just talking from my experience. Thank you very much. Anyway, so that was interesting, to say the least, I have to say. And then I was invited out for Thanksgiving. So, cut long story short, me and my mate had planned for me to go out there for quite a while. And there's a new flight path from Heathrow to St. Louis direct from April. I came from Ireland, my last trip, and a few weeks into it, I mean, it was what was it? It was right after my birthday, actually. The 6th of November was my birthday, and I went on the 25th. And I had no idea that I would be going to America not even 3 weeks after my birthday. and I made a joke to my mate. I literally sent my mate a Trump meme, a meme talking about my hometown, like AI, and talking about how bad it was and stuff like that. And then it led from there. I made a joke about visiting him, and then he said, that would actually be a perfect time to come. So this is how it's all worked out. And so, yes, we had Thanksgiving, which was, I was stuffed once again. There was, there's plenty of food out there, I have to say, and the food is top notch, I must say. So, and I think I was chowing down on like their leftovers like 5 days after even they had that much leftovers. But yeah, it was food that, I don't really have back home. Like, we don't really have pumpkin pie. We don't really have green bean casserole. I can't believe how nice that was. Green bean casserole. I'm not really the biggest fan of casserole, but green bean casserole, I just don't know what it was. It was just like melted in your mouth. It was just gorgeous. Loads of different pies and things like that. So yeah, it's a nice tradition that they've got in the US. God, I wish I could tell you the history about Thanksgiving. I'll probably just put a screenshot up there. I do apologise. This is not a historical video. This is just a taffy Welshman talking about his experience in the US for the first time. So it's basically Christmas without the presents, basically. So I met some of my mates' family, and we had a good time and learnt quite a lot about American football. So it is a big thing out there. It is huge, and they have games like basically every day. The next day then I decided to go for a run, and I just couldn't get over how big the roads were. It was crazy. I swear, like, there was only one roundabout in his neighbourhood. You don't really see roundabouts, and roundabouts are sort of like, you sort of yield or something. It's not the same as it comes to the UK. But I have to say, on a not a negative note, but on something that I struggled as a British person going there, the size of everything. Now, the size of everything, like, seriously, like, I would struggle living there in the US. Obviously, life is long, who knows, so, anything can happen. But what I'm trying to say is you cannot get anywhere without a car. It would take me about 10-15 minutes just to walk outside of his neighbourhood. That's how big the neighbourhood was, and the streets. If you have not got a car out there, you are cooked. I seriously do not know how people survive, especially if they live in rural areas too, where they live miles out of anything and everything is just flat and desolate and it's just cornfields and stuff like that. We saw a lot of rural parts. I mean, Missouri, that's in the Midwest. Like, it's quite, it's quite deep into the US. So I think I had the authentic American experience, just seeing that. And I'm not really one for touristy places. I am, and I'm not. I was fortunate I was able to see that. One day it snowed pretty bad and we were stuck in his basement. But it was all good, we shoveled some snow off the drive. That was my first time seeing snow for like 3 years. And we don't have snow in Wales. We used to, but it's all flaky and it's rubbish. But they have proper snow in Scotland and Northern England. So, we shoveled our snow off the drive. And then went to his church. So he comes from the Russian Orthodox tradition. An absolutely beautiful church, I must say. I got on with, I was cracking jokes with one of the fathers there afterwards. And they were all, they offered me, they had their cans of beer in the fridge after church, of course. Busch Light, which is a beer that's brewed in Missouri. Very, very good, I must say. And so the next day, the weather really did not work in our favour, I must say. Unfortunately, but I have to say this. We went to this Celtic pub twice, and it was Llewellyn's pub, which is, if you don't know, Llewellyn is that is the Welshest name that you could get. So I made a joke with my spiritual father, because his name is Michael Llewellyn, and then I sent that to I sent that to my pastor, and he said I didn't know he was running a pub out in St. Louis, so we had a pretty good joke with that, and I had like the Scottish, Irish, and Welsh flag on it, so yeah, pretty cool. So we went there I think we just went in there for a coffee because it shut pretty quick. We got there and it was already shut in, and then we actually ended up having a meal later on in the trip as well. So. So This was Main Street. He took me to a place called Main Street where you'd have these shops. We even went into a British shop and they had Welsh stuff in it too, and all sorts, like tea and stuff like that, British tea. So there was a lot of historical sites on it, and I believe this is one where it is one moment. Lewis and Clark. Now it was these two men, I'm guessing, they were the leaders of the Corps of Discovery, a US military expedition from 1804 to 1806 that explored the Louisiana Purchase, starting from St. Louis, Missouri, to the Pacific Ocean, mapping the territory, studying plants, animals, establishing trade sovereignty with Native Americans, and claiming the West for the US under President Thomas Jefferson's orders. Their journey up the Missouri River was the first step in American westward expansion, gathering vital geographic, scientific, and cultural data. My best guess is that they ended up with the Louisiana Purchase, that was French land. The French owned that, but I'm guessing the French sold it to them for quite cheap because they needed the money at the time, I'm guessing. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, please. Please fact check me. But that's what I heard when I was out there. But yeah, no, the weather really did not work in our favour. It was because of the snow was pretty bad. Like things were shut. It was pretty dead, but it was still nice. It was a nice row of shops. It was also nice to see a row of shops that were together, not like super spread apart. And then the next day, then we ended up going to a place called Alton, Illinois. And so I can say I've been to two states now. I went to Missouri and Illinois. We went and visited this cave, which was pretty interesting. Saw this was it World War II? No, we saw this war memorial right by the Mississippi River, and then we went for a Chick-fil-A, so that was pretty decent. He was just, he was being a great, like my mate did a superb job of showing me around the place. If you had no car out there, I mean, there's just no chance of seeing anything, like seriously. So yeah, that was pretty cool. So I ate another bit of my mate's mother's leftovers. I think she made beef that night or the night before, and it was pretty decent. So I had plenty of food out there, so I'm very grateful. The next day we went to downtown St. Louis. Wow, this was interesting. Now, the city of St. Louis, prior to going to the day we went to St. Louis, there were a few fires that occurred. And my friends in the US find that pretty suspect, as they believe that those fires happened so big companies can go and buy those places up. Same thing that happened in California earlier this year. People believe it's arson, and I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it's probably, stuff like that is probably happening. But, St. Louis, I don't know if it was, right? My mate told me, right? I don't know if it was St. Louis was the murder capital of the US in 2023, but now it's Louisiana, I think, somewhere in Louisiana. I'll fact check that as well. We went by the arch. The arch was closed, unfortunately. I would have gone up there, that would have been cool. But I had a cool idea to rip the flag of Cymru, the flag of Wales, right by the arch. I thought that was cool, so I did that. Visited some different monuments, and then we drove through the city. And I have to say, when I was talking to my mate's stepfather about going to the city, because in the UK it's totally different in Wales. If I go I'm not really a city person anyway, but I'm able, if I want to go to Cardiff, I could just go there on the train. I could spend the day there. I could walk around, and it would be sound. But the St. Louis is not like that. It's not a city. I don't know if it's really a city you can walk around in. It's more, if you go to the city, perhaps any city in the US, perhaps you go there for a specific purpose. If you have some business to carry out, if you have to pay a fine, or if you have some business to conduct. So I'm not really too sure, but. After that, we went into this really big shop that had, it sold firearms, it sold hunting rifles, it sold fishing rods, it sold merchandise. So I had to cop myself a Missouri t-shirt, so that was pretty cool. The next day then, we went and walked on this trail, which was pretty cool. I think we must have just chilled out that morning. and then I ended up trying a St. Louis delicacy, which was toasted ravioli. Now, apparently that's a delicacy in St. Louis. I think it actually originates from St. Louis, and it was pretty good, so I must say that. Yeah, so the next day then, we ended up going to Forest Park, and yeah, it was beautiful, I must say. I had a pretty cool photo by St. Louis. There was a massive statue of him right outside the Missouri Museum. Now, it was it was the St. Louis Art Museum, and then we went to the Missouri Museum on the same day. Loads of cool photos I'll pull up. There was American history there, you know, Native Indians history as well. Different bits and pieces, different arts. There was like art galleries in there, and then I'm getting it confused now with the Missouri Museum. Oh yeah, so the Missouri Museum was the one where there was a massive statue of Thomas Jefferson, and it displayed in there a lot of history about Missouri and collectively the United States. And yeah, so my mate then took me to this Monk's Mound. It was the largest prehistoric earthwork in the Americas, so that was pretty interesting. We walked up there, and then we saw some pretty nice views, especially with the snow as well. And then that night, then we went to Llewellyn's pub, and yeah, we had a meal. I had a beer, so that was pretty cool. And then we went for a meal, obviously with some mates of his from church. And then we went to his house, and then he went to this guy's house. Lovely guy, I must say. And he showed me. It was funny. This was the day before we went shooting. Now, I'm really happy this happened because it really put my mind to rest around firearms. You know, if a person's perspective on firearms is seen as just negative, then they will view a firearm as just something that kills people. Okay. But then a person who is pro firearms, pro guns, they would see guns as just a tool. And I see guns really now as just a tool and not, it's like people kill people, guns don't kill people. That's the debate of the century, really. That's the biggest debate. But I said my mate's parents, I said to my mate's godfather that actually took us out shooting, was that I'm not going to come as a foreigner, as a redcoat, as a Welshman. I'm not going to, who have not been exposed to guns, who does not have guns. I'm not going to come to your country and criticize your gun laws and tell you this, that, and the other. I'm not, you know. If I move to a certain place, if I'm in a new country, I have to assimilate to your culture, and that's what it was. So I was pretty uncomfortable with firearms, but then my mate showed me his gun collection. I don't really know if it would be a good idea if I put. It's not anything extreme. He had an AK-47. He had assault rifles. I mean, really, you know, it's not like I'm not promoting firearms on this channel. I'm not, you know, I had no prior interest in firearms, but this is you know this is purely an American experience, you know, in regards to firearms. So we had a good laugh with him, and then we ended up meeting one of his relatives in the house, and then we ended up speaking for a few hours. Now, this was the really funny part. Now, this was the time when I was like, well, this is America. Like, this is when there was a few times when I was like, yeah, I'm in America, but this time was like, I'm in America. My buddy he drives a Honda, and it was, you know, a good car, really big car, but he had a few issues with it. And I'll detail one of those issues, which got us pulled over by the police, and his backlights were out. And he's tried to, you know, fix the lights and stuff like that, but he can't get them. He wasn't able to get them fixed. Now, yeah, so we're driving along the highway, and then all of a sudden we see these bright lights behind us, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And we get pulled over, and my heart was pounding through my chest. I mean, it's not like I didn't do anything wrong. I'm just a passenger. But I felt so guilty, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is like what is going to happen? And then a female police officer comes to my mate's side of the car, and he says, good evening, gentlemen, how are we doing? And then she explains, why we got pulled over, because of the lights and stuff like that. And then she asks, have you got any, drugs, bombs, guns? Drugs, bombs, guns in this car? And he says, well, I got a pistol in my glove box. And she said, don't reach for it, because I'm quicker than you. And it was at that moment I was like, what is going on? She takes my mate's ID. She takes my identification, which I gave it to her straight away. She was probably a bit surprised to see a British one. So yeah, after that, she came back with her IDs and this, that, and the other. My mate got a slap on the wrist. He just got another warning, and he's got to pay a fine. And then that was it. We were on our merry way home, and the adrenaline buzz. Because I've never experienced that before, and firearms are involved. The police, it was just a whole different. It was a new experience for me. I was like, my mate was trying to comfort me, and I was like, we were not expecting that. But the pullovers, like, why I was like that is because that does not happen often in the UK. Not that I'm aware. I never see it. I've never ever see it. Well, where I live anyway. Like, I've never seen police just pulling people over like that. So it's common procedure in the US, so it's not really a big deal. But for that to happen to me on my first trip to the US, it was just like funny. But not so funny for my mate because he has to deal with all the nonsense. But for me, that was an experience. So, but yeah, so that was pretty interesting. And then the next day we went shooting. the authentic American experience. So I shot an array of firearms, and it was very interesting, and it was actually a lot of fun, and a lot of fun I wasn't expecting to have, and it really was nowhere as big a deal as my British mind made it out to be. I had a very interesting conversation to my mate's godfather. Now, shout out to my mate's godfather who took us out shooting, because he was the best type of gentleman to take me out shooting for my first ever time, because he was he took his time explaining what was what. He his tone of voice, the way he came across, he made me feel relaxed. He explained everything. He showed what was what, and that was it. And we had a pretty good time. So an older gentleman ended up coming on to me and said, I recognize your accent, he said. I said, all right. He said, I served in Northern Ireland, he said. And I'm like, all right. And we get talking, this, that, and the other. And I ended up shooting his sniper rifle. And the recoil on that was insane. So that was pretty fun. And then afterwards, we were shooting clay pigeons with shotguns. But it was just, it was nowhere as big a deal as my British mind made it out to be. And it was just good fun. Obviously, safety first, as always, as it should be. But that was a good experience, and it was quite it was just a good experience all in all. And so that next day, then we went to church once again, and then we actually were gonna go out shooting again. And one of his buddies from church, we literally drove 2.5 hours round trip. We drove to a range that was shut. We drove to an indoor range. My mate couldn't find his ID, and then we drove back to where we met up, and we just posed with some of these British firearms. I think they were British anyway. So it was a bit of a shame that we weren't able to, do that, but it is what it is. Always there for next time. And very, 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 very grateful. His parents took me out for lunch, for dinner once again. Went to this burger chain called Red Robin. I have to say the fast food chains out there, pretty good. We did go to Chick-fil-A, but I must say the Chick-fil-A is just like fast food. But if you sit down in a restaurant, obviously you have to tip, but I mean, I can sort of see the tipping situation now, because at the end of the day, it's like, their service is a lot better than you would usually get perhaps in Europe or the UK. I think you do tip in Europe and the UK, but that's really an optional thing. But in the US, it's like an unspoken rule. If you don't tip, you get funny looks, and you won't really be served very nicely once again. And they'll like remember you if you don't tip, kind of thing. So, but what it is, they come around and they refill your drinks and stuff like that. I've not ever seen that in Europe. And so after that, then I'm guessing, yeah, we had our final night and then our final morning, and then my mate took me to the airport about 1:30. My flight was about, I think it was about 4:30. And that was all she wrote. So I said goodbye to my mate. I was like quite bummed to leave at that point. I was like, pretty sad. I sort of got, used to the place and like sort of like really just soaked it all in over those 2 week, that 2 week period. I went for 2 weeks. So really super grateful to my mate. He did an absolutely superb job of showing me around. Thank you, mate, if you are watching. And thank you to his wonderful family for hosting me. Thank you to all the people that I met there. I made many wonderful connections when I was in the US, and I am very much looking forward to being there again. One last final point I have to mention about the culture and the laws in the US. Now, this first, through the Constitution, I believe it to be, and there's the First and the Second Amendments. Now, the First Amendment, I believe, is about freedom of speech, and the Second Amendment is about firearms. Now, and the gentleman at the gun range was saying that they both protect each other. If freedom of speech is being hindered, then the Second Amendment can kick up and get that back in order. So it's the gun debate. I'm not one to put my opinion on it, because I at the end of the day, I'm a redcoat, a foreigner. I'm a British cousin who, we don't have that here. I understand that there was we did have guns at one point. We did in the UK. There was 2 massacres that took place in the UK. It was a while ago now. I think it was like in the 90s, I believe, or even earlier, or later on. But it was a while ago. The Hungerford massacre, where a guy just went on a rampage and just shot random civilians. And then I believe there was a shooting in a school in Scotland, and then the UK government really got down to business and really, put harsher gun laws, and that is where we are now. So, but there was an interesting point that when I was at the gun range, that my mate's godfather mentioned to me when we were at the range, and he said about, how do you feel about all this? How do you feel right now, like being around the firearms? And I said, well, I feel okay right now. Like, I feel pretty relaxed, like we're here just doing this. But then I said my initial reaction before just discussing guns or this, that, and the other beforehand, it would have been fear. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, I just had that sense of fear, like doubt, sort of apprehension, and due to the culture I come from, and also, the things that I see on the news and stuff like that. But then he mentioned to me that he said, I find that's interesting. I find it interesting that your initial response is fear, and I feel like they've got you psychologically conquered that way. And I really thinking to myself, I'm like, that's an interesting thing to say, very interesting. I'm guessing the positive thing, again, I'm not promoting firearms, just discussing it, please, UK government. Anyway, I'm trying to think now. I'm only saying that because that gentleman from York, that poor guy from Yorkshire, that should never have happened to him. Anyway, I'm guessing firearms then there's a positive side and a negative side. At the end of the day, if someone needs to defend themselves in a dangerous situation and they've got a firearm, then they can defend themselves. Obviously, there's shootings all the time in the US, and I do question why people are allowed to have like every type of gun And to have AKs and ARs and like military grade weapons in their homes, But I'm not one to say that they should just get rid of them or keep them. I'm not. I stay out of that debate. That debate is just all I know is that there's more guns than people in the United States, and they will never ever get rid of guns. But yeah, it's a normal thing. Like, it's pretty crazy. Like, this is like no word of a lie. And this is just what happened when I was in the car with my mate, and my mate was taking me into some neighborhoods, some not so nice neighborhoods. And when we turned the corner onto the bridge, and I don't want to say where, I don't want to give out too much like location areas, but I remember he would have his pistol like on his glove box, and then he would grab his pistol and then put it into his jacket, and then just in case, like. And I was like, oh my goodness. And that was even just to walk into the shop and buy something. It wasn't all the time, but he said, well, I don't know if it's the majority of people feel this way. I'm not entirely sure. Probably not. But a lot of people, yeah, I'm not sure how many people do carry, while they're just walking about in public. But yeah, safe to say they are not going to get rid of firearms anytime soon. It is deeply enrooted in their law and culture. And, it's sort of like saying in the UK, are you coming to the pub on Saturday? In the US, it's normally, I'll see you at the range kind of thing. I'll see you at the range. That's what they say. So, yeah, so that was interesting, and that was a big culture shock for me. But I'm very fortunate and happy that I just got to experience that. So, yeah, I mean, wow, the US was a crazy adventure. That was a great adventure. Why I say it's crazy, just how many things that were normal, like with the firearms, the size of everything, like how spread apart everything was. That to me, to my British mind, it was like I was totally out of sorts for a bit. But I enjoyed my time in the US, and look forward to going back one day. And yeah, so thank you very much, guys, for watching. Hope you've enjoyed my ramblings. Hope you've enjoyed listening to me about my travel to my trip to the US. So my first ever trip to the US, and hopefully there'll be a lot more of them. So thank you very much, guys, for watching. Stay tuned for my next video on my next trip, or my next video of whatever. And see you guys in the next one. Take care, God bless, and peace out.